Friday?
I read somewhere that you were offered a recording contract at the age of 7. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that's right. Brenda Lee had triggered an interest in children when I was starting out. She had so much success in her career that there was a lot of talent scouts around California looking for children who could sing. And I was singing at a county fair, and someone offered my father a contract, and he declined. I'm glad.
Just the same, though, it sounds like the performance bug had hit you at a very early age.
I had an unusually strong and low voice as a child, and I had very bad eyesight. So my mother encouraged me to sing in hopes of keeping my spirits up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just became something that made me happy. So I sang in church, and I sang for family gatherings, and it was just a hobby that turned into a job.
You auditioned to be a Mouseketeer too, I believe. How close were you to wearing the ears?
7 callbacks. I couldn't dance.
That was.
I was. I got 5 stars with the singing, but 0 stars with the dancing.
The dancing. Never mind. I believe you're.
And I think all those kids had to do everything.
I believe you're also offered an opera scholarship at one stage, and didn't go down that path either. Was that a difficult choice to make at the time? Was that a serious area of interest for you?
I got terrible grades in school, and my music teacher wisely knew that the only way I would get to college would be through the music department. So she trained me, or hired someone to train me for about 3 months to enter a very difficult audition, and I won the scholarship. However, the California folk scene was calling very strong. It was 1967, and you know what was happening to the world then.
Yeah.
And the thought of being stuck for another 4 years in an institution with rules wasn't as exciting as being on the road with a bunch of long-haired adventurers.
Speaking about that folk scene in California in the 60s, it's a scene we don't hear as much about down here as we do the scene in New York, the folk scene in New York. What are your memories of that time, and who were some of your contemporaries there?
I grew up with Jackson Browne and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Jose Feliciano, Steve Martin, that group. And we were an hour south of Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, as I graduated from high school, the Doors were popular, and Tim Buckley, Phil Oakes, Judy Sill, and the Troubadour, and the Free Press, and so those of us who lived an hour south, when we had exhausted our club scene down south, we headed up to the Troubadour to see Ramblin' Jack Elliott and Hoyt Axton and the musicians from New Orleans and Waylon Jennings, and eventually it became quite a serious music scene that brought forth many artists.
Now, you're in the cast of the Smothers Brothers comedy hour. How important was that time for you in terms of your development, your overall development as a performer?
I don't have much of an overview about my overall development, but that particular group of artists and creators were probably the most valuable group that I have ever been associated with.
Mm.
They had the ear of the nation, and I was lucky enough to be, the youngest member of that group. And I learned from Carl Reiner and Mort Saul and what the number. I mean, it was on for 5 seasons, many seasons, and so there were so many artists I couldn't possibly name them. And I was just a hanger-on. I was a singer and a comedian, and I learned the ropes of TV from them. And they were extremely generous and extremely kind, and they managed my career and introduced me to many of the people I still know now.
Yeah. You released a couple of solo albums before you went on the road with Leonard Cohen. Was it a difficult decision at the time to put that career on hold to take up your role in Leonard's band?
I was dropped from Warner Brothers. You mean before I went out with Leonard?
Yeah.
No. Leonard had a certain cachet that I did not have, and my friends did not have, and I wanted to learn. I had grown up around Jackson Browne, who loved words, and so I recognized that Leonard Cohen was someone who understood words. And a lot of the young kids that I grew up with, they pretended to be poets, but they weren't really poets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to. I was young enough, 22, to understand that I needed to spend a decade or two studying. And so when I got the opportunity to tour and observe a poet in action, that was a choice that I made. I suppose instead of going to opera college.
Mm. I guess you'd still remember the day Leonard first walked into your life, your first meeting with him?
I do, yes. It was in a hotel room, a hotel lobby. He was on his way to his concert in Hartford, Connecticut, and I was on my way to my concert in Hartford, Connecticut with Mason Williams.
Uh-huh. How would you
and so we just said hello, and that was it.
How would you just describe your working relationship with Leonard through the years?
As a teacher.
Yeah.
He's been my teacher. He's given me a way of looking at life that is very. It's a few layers deeper than most people.
Mm-hmm.
It's as though he handed me a telescope and said, "Well, look at the world through this and see how it looks." So he taught me how to look and see things, how to understand things. He taught me how not to take myself so seriously.
I read you quoted on your website as saying that you are not as interested in music as people might think you are, and more interested in how music affects people. Can you explain a little bit more about what you meant by that?
I don't consider myself an historian of music, nor am I a great creator of new music. I don't consider myself a great writer or someone who would go down in history as a great composer. So the question came to me, what is it that I actually do? And I think what I actually do is it has something to do with insight. And music as a vehicle for speaking soul to soul is what I know.
Uh-huh.
And so that's hard to verbalize in an interview such as this. It's better shown than spoken about, but prayer and song and poetry reach the same place in the heart, and if that can be studied and understood, if that can be called a skill, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Not what they might teach you at a music college.
In preparing for this interview and reading through a lot of articles about you over the past week or so, the common thread that seems to appear in the articles is mention of your 3 Academy Award-winning songs, and as great of moments as they would have been for you, is it a shame sometimes that you're not instantly recognised for the remainder of your body of work?
I don't care which part of my life someone sees. I don't really. It doesn't matter to me.
Mm.
It only matters to me that I give myself fully to whatever job is in front, and then let the chips fall where they may. I don't think you can control that kind of information.
Yeah.
So maybe one writer will know that history about the Oscars, and another writer won't know it at all. So it's not something I really worry about. I think my job, or any artist's job, is just to give themselves fully to every task and get out of the way, let the music live.
I was surprised to learn that the performer doesn't actually receive a statue themselves.
Yeah, and we don't receive royalties for airplay either.
Doesn't seem fair.
Did you know that?
No, that doesn't seem fair.
It's an odd fact that very few people know, but since the history of time, the singers are not allowed to participate in the income from royalty airplay or any awards from the Oscars. I work in Washington D.C. for artists' rights, so I'm very interested in changing that. But it's a bill that's been come up in Congress once every decade, as far back as Bing Crosby, and the business behind it is that the songwriters and the radio stations do not want to share the dollar, so that's the way it goes.
It just doesn't seem right. When songs like those Oscar-winning songs are presented to you, what do you like to see in the song that makes it one that you know is right for you to present?
If it has a beautiful melody and it fits the film,
mm-hmm.
If it seems honest, if I have those emotions naturally. Usually a song is written for a film, so they've chosen it, and the song has been solidly placed, so I just make sure that I don't choose anything I don't love, because I think the listeners can hear if you don't love it. Don't you think so?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can tell. Yeah. I want to talk about the 20th anniversary release of Famous Blue Raincoat. You've remained very protective of that record over the years, haven't you?
Well, as much as one can in a bootlegging society.
You've kept ownership of the masters?
Yes.
Yeah. That's obviously something very important to you.
Well, it's unusual.
Yeah.
That's a very large subject.
Had you always had in mind to wait for that anniversary, the 20th anniversary, to put it out there again?
Had I always had in mind?
Yeah, was it something you'd planned for a while ago to wait till that 20th?
No, no. It was a case of watching the degradation of the sound quality of bad bootlegs and unauthorized collections become rampant on the internet, and I realized that my work would not be heard in the beauty that it was created if I didn't put it out myself.
So
people, they'll put it out, but they won't consider the sonics or the artwork, and so a lot of very, very bad bootlegs were abounding when we decided to do this. And I decided that whether it was profitable or not, I wanted that record to come out one more time in an exceptional form. And if anyone has ever heard the audiophile vinyl, they'll know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's the most. Yeah, I even if I didn't had nothing to do with it, I think it's one of the most beautiful pressings of any record. The 345 audiophile vinyl that Cisco put out is just. It's like being in the room when we made the music. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm so proud of it.
Can you put your finger on what it is about the songs of Leonard Cohen that sits special with you?
Well, when I was singing those songs, which was 20 years ago, the kinds of music that were kinds of songs that were being offered to me were pop, had a pop formula to them. They were simplistic. They appealed to the general audience, radio listening audience, and I felt that Leonard's lyrics reached a little higher than that.
Yeah. Do you recall Leonard's initial response to the album when he heard it?
Well, he didn't hear it until we were about 3/4 in, and then he loved it.
Uh-huh.
But in the beginning, he didn't think we could do it.
Do you think
he had a difficult relationship with Columbia.
Uh-huh.
So when he was complimented by the fact that we were going to do this, but he was unsure whether it would succeed. But then about 3/4 through, he began to come in and sit in the studio and sit for long hours and listen and be there. And at that point, he wrote "Ain't No Cure for Love" and sang on Joan of Arc, and he really got behind it.
Has he mentioned to you at any stage that any of the arrangements that you came up with on that album have changed the way he's looked at the song himself?
Seems like he has said that to me, but I can't remember which ones. Maybe Manhattan, maybe Ain't No Cure, I don't know. I can't remember which ones, but it seems like that is something he has said.
Yeah. It must have been a great advantage for you going into to record that album, being already so familiar with the material.
Yes, and the band was too, and Roscoe was too. So everyone knew the work, and we had more affection for rich chords than Leonard did. So we knew that we wanted to bring a lot of color and a lot of texture to the arrangements, and that band from Texas certainly could do that.
Now, there are some new tracks on this 20th anniversary edition, and I guess with Leonard having such a vast body of work, have you ever considered a volume 2 of Famous Blue Raincoat?
There was talk of that at one point, but that was before there was maybe 30 cover records. So I don't like to go where others have gone so frequently.
Well,
there was, after Famous Blue Raincoat, I mean, everyone came out with a Leonard Cohen cover, and so that I realized that we had, done something beautiful that inspired a lot of people, and the task has been taken care of.
Yeah, it's like some great movies. Sometimes it's best not to make that sequel.
Yes, and also life is limited, and I have other subject matter that I need to address.
Mm. Are there any special pet album projects in your mind that you'd like to complete one day?
I'm working on them now.
Oh,
yes.
Beautiful. What can you tell us about them?
Only that my story is extremely personal. The next one, it's as personal as one can get, and it's the story that is I've waited a long time to tell. I spent a lot of the beginning years of my life supporting other people and learning from other people and duetting with other people. And now, at this time of my life, I feel like it's important for me to step up and tell my own story.
Right.
So that's the music. That's the music I'm doing now.
Right. So this would be a project you have sat and waited for the right moment to release.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll come out next year, I think.
What else is in your upcoming plans in terms of performing? Do you spend a fair bit of time on the road still?
I'll be on tour from May to October this year. About 4 to 6 small jaunts in North America, and I think I'm singing on Adam Cohen's record. There's discussion of that. And The Hunter is being re-released next month in a remastered version, just like Famous Blue Raincoat.
Oh, really? Fantastic.
And yeah, we redid the cover in color. It's beautiful. And we remastered it at Bernie Grunman's. It's gorgeous. And then after that, The Well is going to be re-released the same way with audiophile vinyl and gold CD and, remastering. And so those two projects are coming out this year. And then I think there's a Christmas record we're preparing that is almost completed. And then after that, then it's going to be my personal project.
Wow, busy times ahead. That's fantastic news.
Yeah, I wish I could make it over there.
Oh, we'd love to. Leonard's just left here. Actually, he was here the last couple of weeks, and did. I
know Roscoe Skyped me from New Zealand.
Yeah. The shows have just been getting rave reviews.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Roscoe's ability to put together a band is impeccable.
Mm. And just before I let you go, Jennifer, any regrets? If there was anything you could go back and change, what would it be?
Oh!
It often gets a laugh, that question.
Well, I have no answer for that.
Yeah.
Life is too short. Maybe that's my answer.
That's true. And you can't change it anyway.
No, you can't. Yeah. I think I have to be like everyone else and let my work stand for themselves. And I think that, I've been as busy as one could be, so I have to live with that. But it's limited, it's a very limited proposition, and you have to be choosy. You have to be very careful. But regrets, I don't know. I mean, I wish my mother had lived longer. That's my main regret.
Yeah. Jennifer, just a delight to catch up with you. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
We look forward to all those upcoming projects, and hopefully we can get you down here to Australia one day. That'd be great.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.